Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Focus on Liberia. This is Between the Headlines. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this broadcast, we are happy to welcome Councillor Tiawan Gongloe, and aspiring for the president of Liberia on the LPP ticket, possibly. Councillor, welcome back to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. And this will be my third time appearing on Focus on Liberia.
And we are so happy to have you. We want to welcome our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We're going to be speaking with Councillor Gongloe on a few things. Currently, he was just in the United States. We're going to talk about his trip, and he's back home. We're going to also talk about the recent development in our country, including the sanctions and some demonstrations. People are not satisfied with the government, and they are in the street protesting. We're going to also talk about a possible dismissal or the threat of dismissal of magistrates in the country. And there are some Liberian girls who are in Oman. What are they doing? They are suffering, and they've been calling. What has the councillor been doing on all these issues? And of course, we're going to talk about his plans for the country as he intends to vie for the highest office. Councillor, again, we are happy to have you. How are you doing today? Councillor, can you hear me? How are you doing?
I'm fine.
All right.
You have a lot on the plate.
Yeah, there's a lot on the plate. We want to see how well we can do here.
I'm doing fine.
Great.
Can you hear me?
How is Liberia since you got back?
Well, Liberia is fine. People are gradually getting excited about 2023. We are giving them reasons to be excited and to have hope for a better Liberia in 2024. And our message is resonating. Our message about better Liberia, that better Liberia is possible, is resonating.
And Councillor, what is this better Liberia? What does a better Liberia look like?
Liberia was founded as a country that will serve as a model for all countries in Africa, a model for good governance, a model for making everyone happy in the country, a model for equal distribution of the income generated from the resources of the country, giving people better life in terms of medical facilities, access to good medical facilities, education, feeding the nation, developing the infrastructure of the nation, and other things, making sure that there is greater access to electricity, developing our technology, and competing with the
We got a councillor is frozen there.
have the highest infant mortality rate.
Councillor, we lost you for a minute.
Yeah, that's part of the challenges here in Liberia.
Right.
And internet connectivity is a problem sometimes.
And as you talk about
so I was saying that, look, all of the
as you talk about this,
no, I was saying, I have said, you say, why we talking
about... Come again, Councillor.
I'm losing you. I'm not getting you. I said I was not getting you, but I was saying that, look, why do we talk about better Liberia? Because every index If
Wow.
you talk about the countries with the highest infant mortality rate, Liberia is mentioned, maternal mortality rate, Liberia is mentioned, country with more children out of school than in school, Liberia is mentioned, country that got most of its population hungry, Liberia is mentioned, the most corrupt country in the world, Liberia is mentioned, uh, country with high level of violent crimes, Liberia is mentioned. So I usually say the short of the long is that Liberia is in the ICU, it's in a state of emergency. We need to
Right.
get out. And the
But
only way
Councillor,
to get out of that state of emergency is by good leadership.
but Councillor, the picture you are painting of a better Liberia, has there been any point in time in our history where we had that Liberia?
No, but Liberia had been a little bit better than it is today. For example, when I went to school from the kindergarten to 12th grade, and I went to both private schools and government schools, I had access to textbooks, even in government schools. I knew how to read because I was taught in the first grade by Peace Schools, having reading books, spelling books, mathematics books, all of the textbooks that we needed. So we were given assignments. We studied better because we had access to textbooks. Today,
That was before the war,
Liberian children
Councillor.
do not have access to textbooks. You
That
didn't
was
have
before the war.
textbooks.
The war has destroyed the country.
So that's what I'm saying. So that was a better Liberia than now. All right.
Thank,
The war has destroyed the country, but war cannot be an excuse because we are not the only country that went through war. Rwanda had more people killed than Liberia. They went through war too. But that war story is not affecting Rwanda's development. There's
right.
poor leadership. That is the problem in this country. You know, I
Thank,
watched CNN one time, and someone was telling the prime minister of UAE, why is it a desert country has been transformed into a country that is a tourist attraction today? He said one word, leadership. And I think it meant good leadership. That can change anything. It can
thank
change
you.
your country around and make it a better country.
Thank you. You were recently in the United States. I think you spent about a month or so. And during that time, we spoke with you.
Three
But
months,
excuse 3 months.
right?
What was the purpose of the trip and what did you accomplish during those 3 months?
The purpose of the trip was to expose myself to the Liberian political system,
Councillor, we're losing you again.
population in the United States in a different way. Everyone who has known me over the years
Councillor, we are losing you. We can hear you.
yeah, I mean, I saw that the internet was disconnected. Everyone who has known me over the years have known me to be a human rights activist, a human rights lawyer, a human rights advocate. So I've received all kinds of awards for human rights advocacy, for being a lawyer, lawyer of the year, all of that. You've just known me as being an advocate for good governance, human rights, and a critic of past governments. They've also known me for the short time I worked in government as Solicitor General, as executive assistant to the interim president, and as Minister of Labor. No one has known me as someone vying for political office. So I went to the United States to tell the Liberians living there. And by the way, the population in United States is not very big.
Hmm. Counselor, we have trouble hearing you.
Yeah, tonight is tough. Okay, so I went to America to introduce myself to the Liberians there that I'm running for the office of the highest office of the land to be their president in 2023. Um, and so, because they have always known me to be a lawyer, they have not known me to
But
be.
Counselor, why the United States? I would think that you do that in Lofa, in Bong, in Grand Jide, in River G. Why the United States?
I've been doing that here, but I know that the population in the United States, I, I've, I've, I heard that there's at least 500,000 Liberians or people of Liberian origin living in the United States. Those people send 3 to 400 million United States dollars a year to Liberia. And I must say that those remittances help to sustain our peace. Because if families in the United States were not sending money here, I guess people would be in the street every day protesting against government for the hardships. But the people in America serve as some sort of shackles over here. So the population in the United States is very influential, it's very significant, and I felt the need to speak to them. Here in Liberia, I can go to Lofa, I can go to Nimba, any of the countries any day. It takes extra time and planning and money to go to the United States. And
Mm.
by the way, I was invited by Liberians living in the United States. I didn't pay a dime to go to the United States. My round trip ticket was paid by friends living in the United States who felt I should come there to speak to Liberians living in the United States. And as I speak to you, I got a call from Switzerland yesterday from Liberians living in Switzerland that they would like for me to go for a 2 week trip to Europe because there are like large number of Liberians living in Switzerland, in Belgium, and in the UK. So I'm looking at that and looking at my Liberian schedule. I want to serve Liberians. So wherever they are, I mean, the Liberian living in Australia asked me while I was in the States whether I would come to Australia. I said, look, I've been a poor man lawyer all my life. If you find the money, you raise the money for me to come to Australia, I will come. But it was the Liberians in America
Mm.
who who invited me, and I went there. I answered their call. They took me to 12 states, put me in hotels, and gave me opportunities to speak to different
So,
Liberian groups.
Counselor, what will you
Sometimes
say? What will you say is your major accomplishment coming to the United States for 3 months?
the major accomplishment is uh, the fact that I've convinced so many Liberians in the United States to the extent that I came back to Liberia and everyone is telling me everywhere I go, our brothers in America, our sisters in America, our mom in America, our pa in America is asking us to support you. And that has expanded my support base. My
Okay.
trip to America was really, as politicians usually say here, fruitful and rewarding because it has increased my support base here in Liberia and
Th-
in the
th-
United States as well.
Thank you. You studied economics. There's something called opportunity cost. Many things happen in Liberia while you were away. What will you say is the opportunity cost of being in the States instead of being in Liberia to do, what you need to do there?
Yeah, for everything there is an opportunity cost, but I think that yes, I was in America, but the good thing is technology didn't make me to miss a lot in Liberia. For example, I was teaching at the law school every day, 8 o'clock while I was in the United States by Zoom. I teach. I was teaching substantive criminal law, and human rights law, 8 o'clock every day. So, for example, when I was on the East Coast, I was waking up at 4 o'clock to teach at 8 o'clock in Liberia. When I got to Minnesota, I was waking up 3 o'clock to teach at 8 o'clock in Monrovia. When I got to Sacramento, California, I was waking up at 1 o'clock to teach at 8 o'clock in Liberia. At the same time, I was running my law firm here. I was speaking to the lawyers left behind. We're looking at briefs. So I didn't. It didn't cost me much leaving because of technology. Technology has helped us to work uh, distance away from our offices.
Yeah, thank you. But also learned that you were meeting with key U.S. government people. Can you share light if any of those took place and what was the purpose?
I did. I'm not at liberty. I met uh, officials of the State Department West African Bureau, and we had extensive discussion. But I cannot expose the content of the discussion except for one assurance that I got, because they asked me among 10 things that Liberia needs, um, to mention what I think like America should do among 10 things on my mind. And I said, I want, I'm appealing to America, and I believe there's a view of a majority of Liberian people for the United States to help us to hold a free, fair, and transparent election in 2023, so that the results of the election will reflect the true intention of the Liberian voters. And they took note and said, we assure you that this is on our plan as well.
And
And this
Councillor,
for me
sometimes that's one of the
was a
problems.
big, uh,
Why is it that we always come into America, especially when you are looking for leadership or power in Liberia? People run to State Department or other places. As a sovereign country, why is there a need that we always seek this American support when we want to be president in Liberia?
I did not go to seek America's support to be president. I went there to seek America's support to help us sustain the peace that we and the international community acquire for Liberia, uh, through, I mean, by holding a free, fair, and transparent election, because that is the only thing that will sustain the peace. Our conflict grew out of the 1985 election that we felt was not properly conducted. We didn't believe the results and all of that. So our conflict has been based on election, and the United States has played a big part in bringing about peace. It was the United States that helped to sponsor 17,000 United Nations mission in Liberia. So United States has a stake here in making sure that Liberia is a peaceful country, so that the United States does not have to come back here again to invest in bringing about peace. So that's why I want the United States State Department. Anybody who says United States is not important in terms of peace and our social economic development, um, will not be will either be ignorant or not be truthful to himself or herself. We have a strong relationship with America. For example, there's no country in the world that America has told before, uh, as directed or instructed the president to leave because of bad governance or his involvement in conflict. I mean, Liberia goes down in history as the only country where the American president told the president, "Pack your bag and leave," and the president left without hesitant.
Yeah. All
Without
right.
hesitating at all.
That's a segue into one of the biggest issues happening in the country today. That's the sanction and the suspension of three government officials of our country. That's Presidential Affairs Minister Nathaniel Fala McGill, the port manager, Freeport manager Bill Tuaway, and Solicitor General Sema Serenius Cephas. I read your release in response to the sanction. You mentioned that you applaud the sanction and you have been calling on the international community to place sanctions against officials of government in the three branches. My question to you, Councillor, why are we always looking for outside help as a sovereign country?
Because they were not satisfied with the way they were conducting themselves in government. So what the United States government did is actually consistent with what a
Councillor, can
majority
you
of
repeat?
Liberians
We lost
feel.
you a little
For
bit. Can you repeat
example,
what you just said?
yeah, I I am saying that what the United States government did is consistent with what a majority of Liberians feel, even inside the ruling party, because before the United States took these actions about 4 months ago, this affected seditions were calling for the dismissal of some government officials, including some of these people who were sanctioned by the United States government, because those seditions felt these people were not doing well in serving the Liberian people, and that could affect the chance of the CDC in the next election. So America's action was actually consistent with what even some seditions felt and what the majority of Liberians feel. For example, when the radio Bongi announced in Banga that there was breaking news and said, breaking news, uh, America has imposed sanction on Minister McGill. I'm told that the whole of Banga went up in excitement, and they were joyful. Like, if you know what used to happen in Monrovia when LEC goes off and then LC comes back, you will hear everybody in Monrovia, hey, like the lights have come on. So it means that even in Banga, where Minister McGill spent so much money recently, the people were not happy with that amount of spending when there's mass poverty all over the country. People are having difficulty, and you go to Palm on Tap Association, for example, and say, I'm giving $1 million Liberian dollars to the Palm and Tappers Association and spending money to different interest groups for political reasons. So, last year I called upon the international community in the presence of the United States ambassador on International Law Day and said, the government of Liberia has shown a total lack of political will and to fight corruption. Therefore, we are calling upon the international community, Europe and America, to impose sanctions and travel restrictions and other forms of sanctions on corrupt officials in the three branches of government, including employees of government in the three branches who may be considered corrupt. So I am a very happy person that the United States government responded in such manner to the calls of the majority of Liberian people, that people cannot be so reckless in corruption, in corrupt practices, and doing so with impunity. So I think that will help to control the behavior of some of the officials of government, because the Manisky Act is intended, the intent is to change behavior,
Right.
you
And
know,
Councillor, I want
of
to ask you
officials of
specific
government.
on that Minsky Act. But my question here is that pressure, you could put that pressure on the Liberian people, on the House. Why America? Why is it that we keep running to America? If we are LACC, there were some officials that were indicted and nothing has been done. What effort did you make to rally the Liberian people to put pressure on the government instead of asking international community?
So let me tell you, the legislature has totally failed, and I will not waste my time to go to them for that purpose, because when something really is in the interest of the Liberian president, and it's not just this president, over time, the legislature of Liberia has not represented the interests of the Liberian people well. The only time that in the history of Liberia that the legislature ever uh, represented the people well, you know, and
Councillor, if that continues, can we call you on WhatsApp?
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome back to Focus on Liberia. We are in conversation with Councillor Tiawan Gongloe. He's a presidential aspirant, and we are discussing a wide range of current issues. Right now, we have some issue with his connection in Monrovia. He's going to be joining us shortly. If that does not work, we're going to be going to the phone and see if we can get him on the phone. Something that I read about the OFAC while we wait for Councillor Gongloe here. It says about penalties for breaching the OFAC sanctions. First, as part of the enforcement efforts, OFAC publishes a list of individuals and companies owned or controlled by or acting for or on behalf of targeted countries. It also lists individuals, groups, and entities such as terrorists and narcotics traffickers designated under programs that are not country-specific. Collectively, individuals' companies are called specially designated nationals. Their assets are blocked, and U.S. persons are generally prohibited from dealing with them. All of the following types of financial transactions should be reviewed by OFAC compliance: deposit, that is checking and saving accounts, loans, credit cards, wire transfer, ACH transfer, lines of credit, trust account, loan payments. So we're going to be asking the counselor about all of these. OFAC treats violations as a serious threat to national security and foreign relations. As a result, criminal offenders face monetary fines ranging from a few $1,000s to several million and prison time for up to 30 years. As of 2020, parties that break the Trading with the Enemy Act, for instance, face fines of about $90,000 per violation. Violating the International Emergency Economic Powers Act comes with penalties of about $308,000 per violation. As the counselor joins us, we're going to be going deep into the sanction, what the implications are, and as a lawyer, what he sees that's going to possibly happen to those that are unsanctioned. Counselor also talked about the three branches, sanctioning people from the three branches. If counselor have ideas about other people, we're going to find out. We still await for Councillor Gongloe to join us back right here. He's having some difficulty connecting. All right, while we wait for Councillor, we're going to read some of your comments. Saros Dankun, we need Councillor Gongloe to cleanse our rotten system. Cisse Goya, Liberia's best choice. Jimmy is watching from DC. Tyler Kungba said Gongloe 2023. That's a Gongloe supporter. Ben Jonas said, but that was not how Liberia was established. Sam Wallow asked him to turn off his camera for better streaming. Yeah, we're going to try different things. Yanni Sanse, in Liberia, my daughter calls me only when the sun is shining. When it's raining, no network connection. That is sad. Mawai District, did you speak to your tribal group or the general Liberian population when you were in the States? Moed District also want for the councillor to correct the regarding the remittance sent to Liberia annually. He continues, any politician coming to the USA asking for money but not fighting for out-of-country voting is a waste of time. Swap Mapu, thanks, Mr. Councillor. I'm a fan of you, sir. Yanni also said the trip gave you the opportunity to adequately sell your 10-point agenda for Liberia's transformation to diaspora Liberians. You met friends of Liberia also. Isiaka Sharif, you are talking about peace while you are organizing and paying students to protest in your country as a means of destabilizing the peace. You gave Supit over 7,000 to go protest just recently. Isiaka, please, if you have any proof of what you are saying, please mention that. You can't just make allegations without any proof. We always ask America to help us because if there is any problem today, we will be running to America for help. Those are a few of the questions. Darling Warwood, two of the very few credible people we have left in Liberia, Mr. Dennis Jai and the Honorable Councillor Gongloe. I salute you, my fellow countrymen. William want me to just do voice. Yes, I'm trying to call the councillor. Mr. Gibson Jeru, if you are watching, please connect us with the councillor. You can call and link us with the councillor. Willie Hine, good evening, Dennis Jai. Public officials in the CDC-led government lack trust, especially in the judiciary system. Remember that what Nelson Mandela said, I will not have a fair judgment in the white man's court. This is just the same with our current government today. Outside help was and is still necessary to deal with corruption. All right. Thank you. Those are a few. Fixed electronic Gongloe is definitely the people's charm. He offered tax incentives for businesses to go outside the capital every 50 miles. Well, we're trying to get the councillor. This is we are still here. We are still here. If we cannot get the councillor, we want to. There are some present questions that we want to go through here. We want to go also into the sanctions. There are Liberian girls in Oman that are languishing there. What can be done? There's been recent demonstrations in Monrovia. So we want to be able to ask the councillor on those demonstrations, what he feels and what he thinks is the way forward. I will be opening the phone lines just so that as we wait for the councillor, we can always discuss. So let's open the phone lines here. As we open the phone lines, we're going to play some songs here between the lines. Welcome back. At this time, we're going to put our call numbers on the screen so that you can be able to call and take part in the conversation. We'll put our call numbers on the screen is already scrolling down there. So if you are there, please call the number so you can take part. We already have one caller here, and the call number is right there on the screen. All right, we have a caller here, and let's discuss while we wait for the counselor. We have a caller. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
My name is Merlinson Yadolo from New Jersey.
Merlinson, thank you for calling. Question or comment, sir?
Thank you so much. I get a concern about the counselor that I want to express.
Okay.
Ja, you and I live in the United States. Transparency is the whole landmark in this country. I could remember somewhere around 2010, Justice Jackson Jr. and his wife were sentenced to jail because they used campaign money on themselves. Campaign money that was raised by supporters and given to him when he was running for Congress. In the state of Illinois, he used 500 of that money to buy expensive watch for himself. He used some of the money to buy jewelry for his wife. They were prosecuted. He went to jail for 2 years. The wife went to jail for 1 year. So I'm saying this to hold the counselor fit to fire. He's preaching about corruption. He came to the United States. I was not with him in his street, but I listened to him all the time. He visited 12 states. When he went to Liberia, he visited 12 states. In New Jersey, where I live, I know personal groups that were supporting him, that were raising 100. And I'm talking about what he got from other states. Then he got to Liberia, as he declared to his supporter or made that amount of money that he raised in America public to show that he's transparent. Has he done so? And two, this counselor who is preaching corruption, he's going to sweep corruption out of Liberia. His sister, who served as superintendent of Nima County, is in the GSC audit report that was conducted in 2014 under the Eden administration. The report, I have a copy on my phone signed by the Auditor General of Liberia for embezzling $1,066,363 from Nima County Social Development Fund that is kept at the LBDR Bank. That's the money that Asira Mita can give Nima County. His sister is currently in our audit report, and she has not been prosecuted in Liberia. They roaming around, and he has not one day. There is no single tip of his voice commenting on his sister's involvement in our scandal. So how can he address those things?
Right. So just in case I understand what you're saying, you were saying his sister, not him.
Oh, no, his sister is caught in a scandal.
Right.
That corruption scandal. His sister is inside. Two issues are raised. One is about himself. He has not made any report on the money he raised in the United States. One. But also his sister in this country where you myself live. If you are in a government, anything you do, any of your family members, your children or your grandchildren, when they run tomorrow, if you're caught in scandal, the opponent will use it against them. So that can be used on Tiawan. That's what I'm doing right now. So they address that.
Right. So I don't see how you're going to question him for what his sister allegedly did. Well, what is the connection?
Wow. So you don't think he has to address it? Because he's preaching against corruption in Liberia, going to sweep corruption. You don't think he got to address it? He got answer for that.
Okay. And then the next thing you said the money he raised in the United States, he should report it.
He should inform the public, his supporter, or whatever who the party coming from. Even though he say the presidential vote, but he got to make report on it in Liberia to let the public know. Even the supporter in America who raise the money from various states, they need to know how much to take that from America. He has not done so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got a counselor. Counselor, welcome.
Okay, so I learned something in the States the other time. I think I was on the program with you, so I had to turn it off and restart to get back.
Okay.
Because I said a lot of things, but I couldn't hear any response.
Right.
So what I was saying is that the legislature has shown over the years is inability to stand up to the president, not just under this administration, but for a long time, the president of Liberia has been controlling the legislature and the executive for a long time. It is, for example, an article was written by Tiawan in 1955 when he said, writing for the Independent, that the legislature and the judiciary have made themselves subordinate to the president of Liberia, and because of that, he was held in legislative contempt. And you know the story of him toting feces around Monrovia in a perforated bucket as a journalist. The only time in Liberia that the historically that the legislature stood up to the president was in 1930, after the League of Nations report showed that President Charles D.B. King and his vice president were involved in selling slave labor to Fanadapo, the place that is called today Equatorial Guinea. The League of Nations threatened to impose sanctions on Liberia. The Senate, as I was saying earlier, the Senate at that time constituted only 10 senators. Grand Bassa, Sino, Cape Mine, and Montserrado County. Those 10 senators, for love of country, for love of country, they cited the president and told him, if you and your vice president don't resign, we will impeach you tomorrow. And on that day, President King and his vice president resigned. I don't see the Senate doing that today. Every bill that the president puts before the Senate and the legislature, and the House, they do pass it. And the House has even tried a little bit because, for example, the War Economic Crimes bill that was submitted, the House has shown an inclination to even deal with it, just that the Speaker does not want to put it on the floor. But the House has been a little bit different. In fact, it passed a resolution one time of over 50 representatives calling for the establishment of War Economic Crimes Code. So sometimes the House behaves a little bit different. For the Senate, their conduct has been really, really terrible. And so, for example, like I was saying earlier, they passed the LACC Act. The LACC Act the bill was sent to the legislature by the president, and it called for removal of the commissioners and secrecy in the process of investigation. And it only happened because the LACC was investigating the NAC chairman, who's a very good friend of the president, the Minister of Agriculture, also a close friend of the president. And because the LACC was making the investigation public and embarrassed these two officials of government, the president sought to remove the LACC chair and the other commissioners. Even though
Councillor,
yeah.
Councillor, I did not. I don't. Maybe I missed something, but I did not hear an outcry from you, because when these things happen, and we are looking at someone like you to push very hard.
So you didn't. Okay. So you say you didn't hear from me, but all I can do, I spoke about it. I've spoken. I don't think anybody has spoken about any of the politicians. I have been speaking about it. I stay in America and spoke on it on one of the.
Can you take the government to? Can you, if nobody's listening, right? Can you maybe organize demonstrations? Can you take the government to the Supreme Court? Can you do something else besides speaking?
Well, the Supreme Court has a standing rule on standing. If something does not affect you directly, there have been several cases filed before the Supreme Court by interested citizens. And the Supreme Court, the last one was citizen solidarity. The Supreme Court has said, you do not have standing. This issue does not affect you personally. You will not suffer personal injury. Therefore, you have no standing. So the jurisprudence on taking a matter of public interest by any citizen is very clear before us in the Supreme Court, and the jurisprudence does not support the kind of action that you are calling for. Okay. Unfortunately, it happens in other countries. The ECOWAS Code says that any citizen has a right to take a matter of public interest to the ECOWAS Code under the doctrine of Action Populaire, but not the Supreme Court of Liberia. So we therefore the only thing to do, as you say, is to call for protests and all of that. But there's no statute of limitation for calling for protests. You have to enlighten people. So I've been speaking about it many times. I've not spoken about I've been interviewed by newspapers. I've cited a provision that says that section 10.9 that says any commissioner or employee of the LACC that diverges information on an ongoing investigation before an indictment should be dismissed. So it means that the law is calling for secrecy. Right in America, President Donald Trump and others are being investigated, and the public is being taken along the process. And our government is partner after the United States government. How come we are saying that when investigation is going on about public officials, the public should not know? That even violates the Freedom of Information Act.
Councillor, when you were not here, I was reading something on the sanction, right? So I want to ask you about the legal side and all the implications about the sanctions. They say all of the following type of financial transactions should be reviewed for OFAC compliance: deposit, checking and saving account, loans, credit cards, wire transfer, lines of credit, trust action. When it comes to the sanctions that have been placed on 3 of our key government officials, what are some of the legal implications? What are those things that impact based on what you know about the law?
Just the fact that you're a government official and you have certain restrictions, you can't be dealing with United States dollars and all of that, affects the function of that particular government official. And so I have said publicly the best thing for the president to do is to dismiss those officials, and because they are not indispensable to Liberia, there are other professionals, and there are many more trained people in the CDC that the president can choose from if he intends to choose only citizens to occupy those positions. Because it will be insulting to our country to say that these people are so indispensable that they cannot be replaced. Remove them from the government. The issue of suspension really does not address the issue properly.
But what problem?
How long do you know they will be suspended? I mean, they will be sanctioned for.
Right,
what?
dismissing them and maybe displacing,
I didn't hear you.
Nathaniel McGill number 1, replaced by Nathaniel McGill number 2. What problem does that address?
Nathaniel McGill number 2, another Liberian who will not conduct himself like Nathaniel McGill. And I think there are more good people in Liberia than bad people, and there are many good people out there that the president can choose from who will not conduct themselves.
Do you have faith in the president to do that? Do you trust the president to do that?
Well, it's not a question of trust. I never voted for him. I didn't believe that he could run government anyway. But to the extent that he's our president, legally, we all have to respect him for that. We expect him. I'm suggesting to him that the best way to do is not to stick to the triumvirate, the 3, but to go beyond. Because to say that he would only stick to those 3 is an insult to even other seditionists who have fought high in the party. I'm not even asking him to take people from the opposition, but I believe that there are seditionists in Liberia and abroad who can replace those people. He just needs to look around.
Right. And one person, especially when it comes to the corruption, the crimes, or the charges levied against them, that can be done by many persons, right? Like if you benefit from, or if you do business with these people. We watch in Banga when Nathaniel McGill entered Banga, the place was packed with people. And we saw even pastors, praying and doing all kinds of things. Let's take a listen.
The prayer.
Yeah, I mean, I think
for him.
So Councillor, what do we do to these people, or people that are, that are nurturing this kind of behavior? Do we sanction them too, or what are you calling for?
No, the sanction is not against ordinary people. The Magnitsky Act is against, the American government is helping our government to function better by uh, making government officials to change their behavior and behave properly, consistent with law and consistent with the level of integrity that is required to be in government. So it is not to the ordinary people. You know, when I speak about corruption, for example, in this country, government officials want to you know uh, dilute the advocacy by saying, "Oh, all Liberians are corrupt. They are corrupt in their churches, in their homes, in the marketplace, on their farm." I said, "That's not what we are talking about. We are talking about public corruption, corruption that violates Chapter 12 of the Penal Law that talks about government protection of government integrity. Corruption that violates our international treaty obligations under the African Union and the United Nations Convention. The United Nations Convention, African Union Convention, convention, and the Chapter 12 or Penal Law has nothing to do with what you do in your house with you and your children. If you use all of the money inherited from your father meant for you and your brothers and sisters, they have a right of action to go against you in court or to report, and you can be charged with theft of property and all of that. But corruption is about what you do with public office, abuse of public office. That's what corruption is about, and that's the one we speak about. So we're not going to go beyond to talk about all sanction church officials who want to fast for 1 week, for 1 month for Nathaniel Magee, based on, and I believe that they were incentivized to do so, or they were recipient of some of the money they were talking about that he's being sanctioned for, and they are probably showing their gratitude by that. But they don't know by doing that they are acting against the good intention of the United States, because that kind of behavior will not change Nathaniel Magee's behavior, because you feel justified in the things that he did. We want our government officials to change, so that we can be served better. Government is not a place to steal, it's a place to serve.
Yeah. Councillor, we saw 3 persons on the list. You've been calling for sanctions against all 3 members in all 3 branches of government that are stealing. Do you have some names in your mind that you think are sanction worthy?
No, I would never, for every reason, never call one person's name on this. I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. Of course, I have names, many more names, but I wouldn't do that.
Right, but if people are stealing and you are aware, wouldn't you call them out?
Well, at the appropriate place where the information will be effective, it will be given. But that's not on your platform. I have a right to reserve my view on that. Article 14 of the Constitution gave us the right to think. Article 15, the right to express ourselves, but also the right to remain silent. And on this one, I remain silent.
And I respect that. So what do you see as the end? What are some of the things that you see down the road when it comes to these sanctioned officials? What do you think going to happen?
Well, I called out the name of Nathaniel Magee when my Senator Prince Johnson was sanctioned, and one of the reasons was for vote selling. And I said, I welcome the sanction against my senator. However, I think it is unfair if the vote buyer is now also sanctioned, because at that time, Nathaniel Magee has spent millions of dollars in Ganta during the election, in Kakata, in Buchanan, and in Banga. During election time, it was clear that it was vote buying, because you were using money to change the minds of electors. That's vote buying. And I said, the vote market will not be profitable if there's only a seller. There's also a buyer. So I was very, very satisfied when the United States imposed sanctions on Nathaniel Magee, because he was a vote buyer, So I think getting a lot of the vote buyers and sellers out of the way in the electoral process will help us have a free and fair election next year.
And Councillor, as someone who is a lawyer, been doing this for so long, the charges against the Solicitor General In fact, you were in that seat before. Tell me how big is it that the chief law enforcement officer, the chief prosecutor of the government, is being called out this way? Would that mean that maybe all the trials that he prosecuted, we call for retrial? Just tell me, as someone who knows the law, what is the gravity of the sanction against the chief prosecutor?
It is very serious because uh, the the Solicitor General prosecutes people who violate the laws against government, in violation of government's integrity, like bribery, embezzle. I mean, yeah, bribery, embezzlement. Which is just theft of property, trading in office, under that are under Chapter 12 of the Penal Law. Hello? Okay.
Yeah, we
I
got
saw
you.
that your internet was, yeah. So it is serious. In fact, the first person that should have been immediately dismissed and subjected to further investigation by the president was the Solicitor General, because this is the man who controls the nerve center of rule of law. He is the one that interacts with the police, all of the county attorneys. He can decide whether or not uh, cases should be tried or not. He can say, let there be null person required, and the case is dropped. So he's very, very important when it comes to the integrity of prosecution,
Yeah,
or in fact,
thank you.
the whole criminal justice system. So this is very serious, and keeping him there will further anger the, the United States government. I've said publicly here, in clear advice to the president, is, look, don't you get the United States government to sanction our government, because this is the first time in the history of Liberia, and I think also in the history of Africa, I've not heard of a chief of staff of the president in any African country being sanctioned by the United States or Europe or any other government. So this is a very grave issue.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
not heard a Solicitor General being sanctioned and the head of a port being sanctioned by the United States government. Just the fact that someone who controls the port has those kinds of charges against him affects the integrity of our port and those who want to do good business using our port. So the best thing the president should have done was not just to dismiss these people. If I was president, I would have, by now, just the next day, to be in good books with the United States and to show to Liberian people that I mean business. I would have obtained search warrants and search the homes of these people, get documents, maybe there would have been millions of dollars there since they've been spending money here and there, and subject them to investigation and prosecution to show
I agree.
that the government is not supporting their actions. But right now, what appears to any reasonable person in Liberia and abroad is that they are being shielded.
Yeah, I agree, and I have more questions on this sanction, but let's move on. There are more than 154,000 female migrant domestic workers in Oman, according to the official Omani statistics from November 2017. These women, they cook, they clean, and care for families, while in turn hoping to school their children, build homes, or start business. So we have most of these people from the Philippines, Indonesia, India, but also they are from many African countries. Of late, we've seen Liberian girls, and I've had them on this show about their conditions. So, given the harsh economic realities in the country, and many Liberians want to go somewhere to get employment, I mean, what is the government doing? And I don't know if I heard you, we have interviewed these girls over and over. What have you done to help as a politician, as someone wanting to be president? What have you done to help these people, or what pressure have you put on the government to be able to do what is needed to bring them home?
You know, on that, I've not spoken about that lately, but I've spoken about the harsh economic conditions in the country, and that is forcing Liberians to go through the Sahara Desert to cross the Mediterranean Sea. Many of them dying. Every time you see people dying in the boats on the Mediterranean Sea, for example, you can rest assured that Liberians are there. One of my own cousins who graduated from Liberia last year came and helped him with graduation. I just heard uh, about 6 months ago that he was in Algeria. And I managed to speak to him. I said, "What are you doing in Algeria?" And he told me how they were living a life of slavery in Algeria. And then we will manage and we are brought him back home. There are many families in Liberia that are trying to bring their people back home. But yeah, when I was Minister of Labor, the Minister of Labor
Right.
has the Secretariat of on human trafficking. And I remember as Minister of Labor how we got some Bangladeshis to go back and all of that, working through the IOM. All we can say is that the government of Liberia has to improve conditions in the country, because you know what? We can bring those girls back. The government can bring all of them back. As long as conditions don't improve here, Liberians will find their way in other places, because they are promised by the criminals of the world that there are greener pastures elsewhere. And there has to be a lot of education also. Government should support some of those girls who have come back to really get on the radio, community radio, and explain that these places are not greener pastures. You know, Public education is quite important, because some of the girls, the girls go there based on ignorance, based on false promises that are made by other people. So it's not sufficient that you just bring them back. It's just like, when you educate people, education really, really helps, as a deterrence.
Yeah.
Like just on another topic, I usually tell people, look, two things. Yeah, also strong law enforcement, arresting and prosecuting the human traffickers who are
Right.
the agents that take these people abroad. They should be prosecuted, and
So,
then there should be
Councillor,
education
Liberia
for
has
these
no
people.
embassy in Oman. What should be the government's role, for Liberians working in these countries,
Yeah,
including
but
Oman?
I, I, we have an embassy. I think Qatar was somewhere in the Middle East there,
Right.
and the foreign ministry. I was on, for example, talking to some. I think there's a Liberian platform in one of these countries. Is that Malta? Yeah, I was on a platform in the United States, and I was saying that there were some Liberian young people in jail, and they said, oh, when it happened to Sierra Leone, the Sierra Leone foreign minister went there and got the students out of jail and carried them back to Sierra Leone. So our government should be proactive. The foreign minister and the labor minister, working with the Ministry of Justice, should be able to protect the interests of Liberians everywhere. That is what government exists for, to protect its citizens, to seek their welfare. As and the question of bringing young people back home who've uh, who based on their dream of greener pasture find themselves in difficult situation. We should not abandon our government, should bring them home. And as a politician now, that's all I can do, to call upon the government to take serious interest in our citizens who are suffering in other places based on conditions back home. And like I say, okay, when if it is not is Omar today, it could be somewhere else tomorrow.
Yeah.
When I'm going to town, passing by foreign ministry around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, you should see the long lines of young people trying to get passports. It never happened like that long time ago. As bad as conditions were in this country 5 to 10 years ago, you never saw so many young people trying to get passports just to leave Liberia. So the government has to change and actually give concrete manifestation to the slogan "Change for Hope." Because what is happening in Liberia now is serious hopelessness and despair. And so I may be I'm not even wrong. I can say without any fear of contradiction that if you, Dennis Jai, were to get a contract from somewhere in the Caribbean or America or anywhere to say, I'm bringing a slave ship to take 50,000 young people out of Liberia, they, and say, I'm carrying you people as slaves to work in America, they will fill the ship and
Wow.
actually to bring more. That's how bad the conditions in this country are. But the people in government who are stealing money and enjoying live in a different world. So when you tell them that people are suffering, they don't believe it. But I walk in the street, I'm a street politician. And I can tell you, today I was talking to some young people on Macklin Street, and I told them that you see, there are more sellers here than buyers. When the Yana boys and the Yana girls go to the market in the morning, the first item they buy from them is for their kobo. They use it to buy kobo to eat, because whatever food they have at their house, at their homes, is for their children, preparing for their children to go to school in the morning. They say, when I go to the market, at least when the buy something, I'll buy my kobo. Then the second item, they put in the daily susu. The third item, they use it as money to pay their way to come to go home. The fourth item, to pay their money to pay their way to come the next day. If they are lucky and the fifth item is bought, that is what they use to put aside to replenish the market, to put it so that the market can grow. But I am told by the Yana boys that it's even difficult to get a kobo money now. So they have been combining, sharing money to buy kobo money. They've been crediting from the kobo sellers. The kobo sellers are getting out of the market themselves, because if you credit from the kobo seller and you don't pay, it means that the kobo seller is getting out of the market. That's
Yeah,
how
can come back.
serious the conditions are here. But the people in government who, I heard former Deputy Minister of Information today, I don't know whether you listened to it, Eugene Fagon,
Yeah.
and he said, I will campaign for President George Weah when his stepson is buying car and washing it with champagne, and
Yeah.
naming all those things that, and I said, wow, in Liberia. So when you have those kinds of reckless display of wealth in the midst of poverty, people give up and they want to go to places like Umar when they
Yeah.
hear stories that they are better. So that
Thank
again,
you.
governance issue.
Let's come to the protests. We have had one on July 26th and another one on August 24th. According to Freedom House, Liberia scores 60% on the Freedom Index and is considered partly free. It scores 27% out of 40 on political rights and 33% out of 60 on civil liberties. That's from the Freedom House. So, but what do you think is responsible for the latest wave of protest actions in the country?
It's
In
still
fact, even
governance issue.
with our MCC score, we're doing good when it comes to freedom and all those kind of things.
Yeah, okay, but I will tell you, some years back when Martin Colley and others decided to organize the protest on Bring Back Our $16 billion, I was a legal counsel. We organized with the help of the United Nations. We had a meeting, United Nations, the Minister of Justice, the police director, everybody was there. And I counsel my clients to have a peaceful, orderly march. And the reason I strongly believe they agree with me, I said, if you have a march and it's violent, if you have a protest and it is violent and somebody gets killed, the news at the end of the day is that somebody was killed today. If you have a peaceful protest and you present your petition, then the news of the day will be the content of the petition. And they believe me. So they went and presented a petition to the United States Embassy. They were peaceful. The police assured that they would be orderly as long as the marshals, the protesters were peaceful. And that was the beginning of peaceful protest. So after that, when the June 7 came with Costa and others, it was also peaceful. There has been several peaceful protests since then. That's why I was surprised when I was in the United States and the young students of the Student Unification Party at the University of Liberia protested on July 26, saying there was nothing to celebrate because the government had failed the Liberian people, which was their right to express themselves. I was so surprised that the government allowed a counter-protesters that were pro-government, calling themselves CDC, COP, to come and beat up the other protesters in the presence of police officers actually cheering them up. You know, I was really surprised, and we spoke about it. I spoke about it in the United States, and promised to file an action against the actors and the government. The action I wanted to file against the government was to file a mandamus to compel the government to prosecute the actors. All right, the government has begun the process. Maybe the statement made by me was a kind of pressure, so the government has begun the process of prosecution. But there will be a civil action file that we are working on to hold all those who caused students civilly and others to be so injured and humiliated to account civilly. So we'll file the action on damages. We are looking at it.
Do you believe that a meeting with the protester will help?
Oh, any meeting, if you're a good politician, is good, because protest actually is meant to call the attention of the government most often. And there are examples in history. People don't like to read when there was. We are told in history that when there was a big protest in Monrovia in 1955, Tubman came down and joined the protesters and were dancing with them. And in the middle of the night, at that time, there were all these laws against, sedition and different laws. In the middle of the night, the president went and arrested the ringleaders. But at least damages were controlled in terms of not jumping at the protesters and shooting among them as Tubman did in 1979. But I remember under President Salif that some students were protesting before the Foreign Affairs, and she stopped the police. The security were never said, no. She got there and talked to them and said, "Why are you here?" And they stayed there while they were there. And she said, "All right, can you get 5 members of the students to go upstairs with me and explain?" And the students were calm. The protest was called off because the president wanted to listen to them, and they were honored that the president stopped and took some of these students upstairs to explain the content of their protest. So it's always good for the officials of government, the important one, the relevant one, that the people that are dealing with the content of the issues that people are protesting for, to come and face the protesters.
And talk. So in your opinion, is there ever a time that protests should not be allowed?
No, unless is protest is calling for treason. You cannot call for protest to violate the law. If you say, let's kill the president, or let us subvert anything, the Constitution of Liberia in any form, or let us engage in terrorism, calling for Liberians to engage in anything that violates the Constitution and international law, cannot be protected. Somebody cannot call for protest for eating human being. I'm just being, as a teacher, I like to give example. So the content of the protest must be legitimate.
Thank you. Also, what we've seen is this idea of militancy. We saw this in Lofa County, where we have a CDC militants. And also we saw Representative Yaga Koluba organizing the Opposition Protection Unit.
I don't support that. I don't think that there should be rival militia units outside the security forces that are paid for by government. Again, people sometimes are acting out of ignorance. The government should not be involved in organizing private militia. Not Charles D. King, E.J. Roy organized a private militia as president. The other people opposed to him also organized private militia. In the end, the opposition militia overpowered the president's private militia, and they arrested the president and put him in jail. You cannot have a government and then organize a private militia. People should learn lessons of history. Things that happened before, and they were not good.
Honorable Koluba is saying that they have not been protected, as we saw with student Christopher Civili when he was beaten in the presence of police officer, and he said, "Well, the president said, get your own CCTV camera."
Man, I don't agree with that as a lawyer. We have law enforcement institutions, we have security forces. If the law enforcement institutions, like the police, is overpowered by any situation, the army can always be brought in to back up the police. But we should call upon our government to act properly within the scope of the law. We should not be tempted to tread the path of illegality, because rule of law is the only way to maintain and sustain our peace. That's my strongest feeling. And I don't think under any temptation should anyone try to do what government is doing, because two wrongs don't make one right.
Councillor, also you've been talking about this election magistrates, and you have reports that they're thinking the president or the government is thinking of dismissing them. What's your latest on this?
Yeah, that's the same thing I was saying about the legislature, because they've set a precedent by dismissing the election, the LACC commissioners. It, it went, first, anything that happens in the country that people don't stand against becomes a precedent. Representative Snow left from here and went to bombing and became a representative, and now he's senator. I understand the coming election, there are some lawmakers who want to go run in other countries because they know they have filled their districts and they believe that they will not be elected in the next election. So the same thing, LACC law that the president sent dismissed the current commissioners, which in my view had no legal basis, because there are many times that the judicial law that controls the procedure of going to court, that controls the terms of court, that controls the number of courts in the country, and all of that have been changed many times. The judicial law has been changed many times. But on those occasions, the judges and justices have not been changed. They have not been removed. So there's new development of when you amend a law for an institution, then those who are serving at the time should be removed. Actually, is new, and I don't find a legal basis. It's almost like, it's close to expo factor, like on hindsight. Okay, so let's do it. What have they done? You expect that when you appoint people to government offices in Liberia, they should conduct themselves properly, unless they do something wrong. In this one, they didn't say that they did anything wrong. They said because we have changed the law, and the name of the institution was not even changed. It's still LACC.
Yeah.
And then the only thing that will change is those who are serving now should be removed. And then they say, you know what? Because they have embarrassed the presidency, because they have embarrassed me by naming and shaming my friends in government, let's put a clause that no investigation will be exposed to the public until there is an indictment. So if there is no indictment, then the public will not know. When a minister is visiting the LACC on a daily basis, then people will just be speculating. And the thing about lack of openness, lack of transparency is that you open yourself to all kinds of dangerous rumors, which could affect the country. You may be young, but 1980, I always mention it, around April 8 to April 10, there was a dangerous rumor in Monrovia that Bacchus Mafias and others who carry on the April 14 will be executed on the anniversary of April 14, when the president is in Zimbabwe. So that rumor spread all over Monrovia. So Do Kuangba and Wesien tried to rescue the kinsmen that were in jail and said, no, we should not allow President Toba to go to Zimbabwe, because when he goes, they will execute our people on April 14. There were rumors, people coming from the margin and saying they saw a resolution that the senior government officials have signed. Today, nobody has shown that resolution. But because, and that rumor was going on, government heard it. So the Minister of Information should have come out, the Minister of Justice should have come out and said, look, these people are not even being charged. They are not being tried. So they couldn't be executed when they are being judged, no judgment. We are part of the Committee of Nations. Will not do. They didn't clear that air. They kept the rumor going. And then, I guess they felt that, oh, this kind of rumor will make people afraid of government. But the consequence was that a whole government was overthrown because the government promoted secrecy.
Yeah.
So, again, people don't learn from history.
Right. As they say, if you don't allow EFBC to broadcast, EFDC will take over.
Oh, yeah. And
so
EFBC right. Can be more effective than EFBC.
So, Councillor, as we draw this, that I know of all the criticism. In fact, I watch you carrying your broom and sweeping all over the place.
Yeah, my broom is always with me, even at home.
Yeah, what will you do differently? Because it's very easy to criticize. You want to be president. What is your plan? What do you intend to do differently from Judge?
I have repeated my plan on combating corruption. Mahatma Gandhi said change begins with a change agent. Be the change you want to see in the world. I have told people, I serve in interim government. I serve Ellen's government. Ellen could say anything about me, but she has even said in private conversation, people have told me, among all of the people who serve in my government, you can say everything about Cllr Gongloe, but you did not put your hand in a cookie jar. All right? Everybody will say he got big mouth, he's stubborn, he does this and does that. But stealing in public office is now one of my credentials. So that's the first thing. You start with yourself. So I've said this, that I will, again, I talk about transparency, open government. The president's salary, the president benefits, the president's asset value, and the asset value, salary, and benefits of all government officials will be on an executive mansion website for everyone to see. The salaries and benefits of all officials of government in the 3 branches of government will be placed on the website. It is the law. The executive law calls for the president's salary, vice president's salary, chief justice, all of that to be enacted by law. So it is it's something that should be of public knowledge. Today, I don't know the president's salary. I don't know judge's salary. As enlightened as I think I am, I don't know the members of the legislature's salary. We can only speculate because it's not written anywhere. But I can point to key now and know Joe Biden's salary and the Speaker of the United States salary and all of that. So first we must have open, there must be openness about what people in government are earning. Then I will have something called quarterly lifestyle audit. I'm not talking about institutional audit. So I appoint Dennis Jar as Minister of Education. And I know the public knows his salary. Then he buys 200,000 Mercedes Benz operated by electric power. And the public knows his salary, knows his asset declaration. It does not exceed $50,000, including his salary. And he's been in government for 3 months. And the code of conduct says you cannot receive any gift in government beyond $250. So when the auditors come after 3 months in government to check on our lifestyle, beginning with the office of the president, and they find out that even the President Gongloe, has a big ship back at the airport, a Freeport, a luxury ship, like Tubman used to do, they call it a yacht, to go enjoy himself. And the auditor comes, President, there is a luxury boat back at the Freeport, and it's called MV Tiawan Gongloe. Where did you get that money from? Because we know your salary and benefits, and we know your asset value. If I can explain, I will resign from government, because then I feel I've not kept the promise and I've disgraced my family name. But I wouldn't do such thing. Yeah. So because I wouldn't do it, if any government official does it, I will dismiss you and turn you over to LACC. And by then I will have sent in an amendment of the LACC Act so that they remove that secrecy clause for the process to be open to the public.
Councillor, you can put all the corrupt people in jail. That is not going to grow our GDP. As you may know, There has been a negative GDP growth, So what are
No,
you
but
going to do?
I have, you just asked me about how
Yeah,
you
because
affect
I
corruption.
think you are prioritizing the rule of law, but rule of law is not going to put food on our table. We need the economy
But that's
to
not a
grow
question that
first.
you asked, Dennis. That's not a
Mhm.
question that you asked. At least I have common sense. I can understand question and read and write. That's
Okay.
not a question you asked. The question you asked is how are you going to combat corruption? You didn't ask me about my economic policy, so
No,
I
no, I
can
was
tell you
asking you about what you're going to do differently because you are. Oh, so
about
you honestly
combating
are creating.
corruption.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
So let me
So let me
reframe
tell
it.
you now. Let me tell you that my first. Look. I have
Yeah,
a
let's
degree
talk about
in
the economy.
economics. I have a degree in economics and taught economics. My student
Yeah.
at Joao, Samuka, and Kabina Jana, many of these people. Let me tell you this.
Okay.
My economic plan is to deconcentrate the economy from Monrovia. And let me tell you, I'm a demographer and economist as well. Look, I have a plan to incentivize putting factories 50 miles away from Monrovia. For each 50 miles, there will be more incentives, including reduction of taxation, all of that. And I believe that that kind of policy will put factory in your home in Sino, factory in River G, factory in Bagleyville, factory in Harper, factory in Vonjaman, Bobolu,
But
in
there's
Tapata.
no rule, Councillor.
Now, when we do that, here's what's going to happen. The young people of these various localities will be employed. When they are employed, they will generate income. Why the government is not taxing the companies, it will tax the income of the employees. So if you got 1,000 employees in Harper working for a company and they are taxed, not only that, they too will go and pay rent to house owners. The house owner will generate income. That income will also be taxed. They and the house owners will buy other goods and services, and the income earners for those goods and services that will be purchased will also be taxed. So the revenue base of government will also be expanded while the economy is expanded. And here is the social benefit demographically. Today, there is massive role of immigration.
Right.
Everybody in Kipamas everywhere is coming to Monrovia because that's the only greener pasture. When they come to Monrovia and they fail, then they start thinking about going to Qatar and other places, going to Europe. But the view that people have in Tabata, in Zwedru, in Plibo, and Harper, other places, that Monrovia is the place to go because when people come from Monrovia, they come back with farm clothes and all of that. So, but if the people are earning income in Harper, in Greenville, why do they want to come to Monrovia? They will not want to come. So it will slow down the role of immigration because when the young people come in Monrovia and they fail Monrovia and they can't get the opportunities, those who have come earlier will say to them, my man, let's go to the ghetto, you take a load of marijuana to forget your trouble. When they take the load of marijuana and even transcend to higher drugs, then the thing they used to be scared to do or ashamed to do, they start doing it. They start engaging in armed robbery, raping women, jacking bags in the street, to the extent that today Liberians have imposed sanctions on themselves. Curfew on themselves in Monrovia. Go now, at this hour in Monrovia, nobody is in the street. So the night economy in Monrovia is there. That's the Monrovia where the nightclubs were all
Yeah.
over, Galley Street, everywhere. People were enjoying themselves. They
Yeah,
used to have cinemas at night. It doesn't
yeah.
happen these days. So
Oh
my
wow.
economic policy will solve the crime rate. It will put money in the economy. It will broaden the tax base and increase our budget.
Or when you were talking about my hometown factory being there, I said there's no role. So you need an infrastructure to be able to build on so that the economy can build on. What and I want you to talk about the infrastructure plan, our roads and our bridges. Honorable Walker talked about road. We also see that education right now, the standard of education has dropped. What are you going to do
So
about?
So listen, Tobo, I like some of Tobo's policy. He had integrated rural development program. Now the integrated rural development program take all of those into consideration. Education, health, infrastructure. It is true that integrated rural development program, that the self-help program was promoted at post school in my hometown, where the people in the town would make bricks, government would bring cement and zinc and all of that. So it is not you creating jobs, you generating more income, you strengthening health service, you strengthening education, you are building the roads. I even want to go back to the policy that government had on road building and maintenance largely. When I was growing up, there were public work yards in every county. Tapeta had one, in Grand Jide, Total had one, and on. Kanweke had another one. All over the country, there were public work yards with yellow machine. So that when the rain stops, the public works to intervene, maintain all of the roads. There was no time when I was growing up that I was told, growing up in Tapeta or San Nicolas, that the road to Zredru is blocked, or the road to Kipamos is blocked. It never happened before. It never used to happen before the war, because these roads were maintained by public works in the different public works stations that were spread all over the country, in Zozo, all over the place. We need to go back to that. Sometimes we should look at old policies and pick from it for today. Of course, the new policy that government has adopted is privatization. Therefore, everything should be contracted. No, it is not working, because through the contract process, in a very corrupt environment, there are all kinds of red tapes that make not the best companies to get the jobs, and they do their work in a way because the supervisor, the monitors themselves are part of the process. They can't monitor properly. I think we should go back to getting public works to buy yellow machines, to employ engineers, to employ yellow machine operators, reopen the Road Maintenance Institute that is on the way to Grand Bassett, our training middle-level road maintenance officers. These are things that happened before. We cannot scrap everything that happened before and say that the old way.
And Councillor, I have some ideas about energy and internet, because I believe if these things would spur more economic growth than the roads that we're talking about.
Not cutting you off. That's one of the things I discovered in America. In Iowa, for example, I saw some young people that said, "Oh, Councillor, we work with a windmill company here." They said, "Work with windmill company here." So they said, "Look, we can, if Liberia posts windmills from Cape Mount to Cape Palmas along the coast, we'll have more electricity. We could even be an exporter of electric power." Then when I went to Minnesota, Winfred Russell took me to the solar field in his city. It is, I think, it covers a quarter of Anthony Tubman Stadium, even less than a quarter. And he said, "You see, this solar farm, that is why they supply electricity 24 hours in this city. It can be done in Liberia." And then we have the remaining 43% of the tropical forest in West Africa here. The fact that we have a huge forest means that there's huge retention of water. So we have, rivers all over. We have more forest here than Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and Ghana combined. So water resource is not an issue. How do we manage our water resource, for example, to provide hydroelectricity? Firestone has taught us. The one small hydro that Firestone put here over 60 years ago has been providing electricity cheaply to Firestone and has reduced the cost of production. So we need to work on our energy so that it can even be easier for these factories that I'm talking about to work throughout the country and work cheaply, and provide. You cannot have a vibrant educational system, health sector without electricity, because all of the machines that you need in the hospitals require electricity to operate. And you can have a situation where generators are going up. I've heard secrets that sometimes when the lights go off and people are in operation room, they end up dying.
Right. And Councillor, I want to read that. I want to see that in your plan about electricity. I believe it was going to do more. But let's go. I
In
want
my
to bring
in my 10-point agenda, I talk about energy generally. So
okay. Yes,
that is not a
one
platform.
specific.
The agenda is not a platform, sir. The platform will be developed. Details. These are the broad.
How soon we expect to see that?
But campaign, there is no party that has a platform now. Campaign starts 3 months to election next year. That's where everything will be coming out.
Also,
I'm even generous. I'm in general. I've not heard any politician talk the way I talk. I'm generous about laying out my broad plan. You tell me who platform you see.
That's what's going to distinguish you.
Have you seen a platform? I'm asking you. There's no platform right now.
Agriculture, because a lot of people talk about agriculture.
I have agriculture on my plan.
Yeah,
it's broadly stated in a 10-point agenda. The details are being worked out by the experts. But here is what I said: we cannot feed ourselves by using cutlasses and whole animal. Nigeria, right in our region, I thought they are doing mechanized farming and producing rice. We can do mechanized farming here. When I was in North Dakota, I talked to the Trade Commission, and they got a smart farm project. A concept there. They are using machines to grow food. We can use machines here. We'll revitalize the Agricultural Cooperative Development Bank and give loans to farmers cooperatives as a loan. Give them machines and farming equipment for 15 years interest-free. And they just use it to produce our rice. We will also incentivize the agricultural battalion, the AFL. I said that to them last year when I served as the commencement, as the keynote speaker at the Armed Forces Day symposium, that instead of agricultural battalion sitting down, the agricultural battalion can be used by the government to jumpstart our food production, because we are severely food insecure. According to every statistics you read, out of every 100 bags of rice we eat in the country, only less than 20 bags are produced here. That makes us very insecure. We have to do something about it.
Thank you. Councillor, we almost out of time. Let me bring in one caller here. Caller, your name and where you're calling from, please. Hold on one second. Hold on, Dualo. Go ahead again. Go ahead, caller.
Okay, Doc. You talking to me or another caller?
Yes, go ahead, Dualo.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Gongloe. It's always a tremendous honor to listen to you and the vision you have for our country. But I want to say this to my brother John first and foremost. Law enforcement alone is an economic policy. If you enforce the law aggressively, you will solve most of the economic problems we have in the country. But that's not the main reason why I'm calling. Honorable Gongloe, and I hope you can answer this question directly. I'm calling you because of this. You did say you don't support anybody else forming a paramilitary organization to counter whatever the government is doing. Now, let me ask you, you're a lawyer. You understand the opposite of justice is injustice. If you have a society where the chief person in charge of that society tells the population, I cannot provide security for you, I cannot do anything. And besides that, there are real consequences to the population where people are being killed across the country without any redress. I am not also suggesting, because my question is not suggesting that it is okay to form a paramilitary organization. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying here is, what do you expect the population to do to protect themselves if the government refuses to protect them, which is a constitutional mandate, by the way. Thank you so much, and it's always great to listen to you, sir.
Thank you, Dualo.
You sounded very American. I didn't hear everything you said, so please help me a little bit.
No, his question is, what do you expect the citizen to do if the government is not protecting them? And he's talking about the reference to Honorable Yaka Kaluba.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't think that, we should go that way. I think what you said is important. Let us put pressure on our government. I mean, and never get tired of putting pressure in different ways for the government to perform. Because if every citizen in this country, or every group of citizens decide to form their own private militia, there will be chaos here. And just as you said, that, rule of law is quite important in terms of creating the environment for socio-economic development, which is an economic policy in itself. I don't care what economic policy you have. If rule of law is not adhered to, it will not work, because no economy can develop in chaos. You see? So we cannot contribute to the chaos by also having our own militia forces. The rule of the jungle will not work. You know, if the president is not protecting us, is not keeping us safe as it is his constitutional mandate to do, then let us not elect him next year. That's one of the reasons I say that we are in the ICU. We don't need to form our private militias because there's different political parties. And if all of the political parties form a military wing and they could use fist. Next thing they could start using sticks. Next thing they could start using homemade guns. We can't promote that. I saw the former prime minister of Japan killed by somebody who had a homemade gun. You know, for whatever reason, I know we have difficult situation, but for Liberia that came out of war with a lot of young people exposed to fighting and have combat experience, we must not expose them to any degree of violence. We should build a culture of peace, and that can only be maintained by rule of law. I insist that we should not form private militia to protect ourselves. If our government fails, at least now we have less than 2 years for this government, you know. So let us we can bring things to our international partners. Liberia belongs to United Nations, is a part of African Union, is a part of ECOWAS, and all of these organizations believe in peace and stability. They believe in rule of law. They believe in human security and all of that. So I don't think we should counter government's unlawful militia force by another unlawful militia force. Then what would be our moral authority in saying that the government is wrong?
Thank you. Let me read a few comments again. We can draw down the curtains. Sam Wallace say, when we're talking about your platform, he said that is not true. All major parties in 2017 have platforms that they can refer to. What they don't have is their implementation plan. William King, a great-grandson of Charles David King, said, tell Gongloe to leave Papa King alone. That is his fellow lawyer. Gabi Pau said, does he, meaning you now, have to be president before mechanized farming is introduced in the country? Alison Saba, Councillor, you want to be different from others. It's not prudent to not have your platform laid out. With your genuine platform, it will help in the step-to-step process and understanding. The reason most governments fail because of not adequately establishing an organization that will begin a system necessary to timely implementation. And while you were not here, I think this when I see that comment from Yadolo, then I'm going to read that. Darling Wall will say, be mindful, Councillor Gongloe. Those auditors may get killed like we are seeing with this regime. He said, opening government is the easy part. How about infrastructure development and job creation? Councillor, your response to those few comments.
Well, you know, I mean, most of them are opinions, but let me say this. I didn't say that I will not have a platform. The man said 2017, the parties have platform. Those platforms, unless they say that the 2017 platform they use now, times have changed, the issues are probably changed. And so I said I have a 10-point agenda, but the 10-point agenda will be developed in a full-fledged platform in terms of the how and all of that. So I have a broad scope of where I want to take, I got a policy framework where I want to take the country. It is there. I think I sent you a copy. It is all out there. So maybe those who are speaking, and now that I've not thought about where I want to be. I don't just want to be president. I want to be a project manager to redirect the course of Liberia, to the captain of the ship that will redirect the ship of state because the ship of state is sinking. because those who are holding public offices now engaged in stealing, and public office is not a place to steal, but a place to serve. And I want to serve as project manager of Liberia.
Good. Councillor, my last question here is, and I know we talked about the sanctions earlier, but what people are saying about why didn't the U.S. sanction anyone in the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government, and they are doing it now? Some are even going a step further.
I don't know. Nobody should ask me that question. I'm not a U.S. government official, a former U.S. government official. So that's not a question I even want to attempt to answer.
Yeah. But do you see
somebody said whether I have to be a president to introduce mechanisms. I'm talking about what to do with government resources to redeem Liberia from the hunger that Liberia is in. Even if one Liberian who has money engages in mechanized farming, is not going to feed the whole country. We're talking about government policy. People, again, it's a question of being knowledgeable. Sometimes people are a little bit not informed when they ask this question. We're talking about what to do with government. Sometimes people say, Councillor Gongloe, where is the tangible? For me, who've been teaching people who serve the country, people in government steal to build one bridge somewhere and say, where is the tangible? What have you done? Of course, you've probably seen the picture of the library and auditorium I built in my hometown, but I don't like to refer to that as my achievement. I like to refer to the people that I've taught that are serving government in the 3 branches of government. That is my achievement. I teach at a law school today, and the students tell me, Prof, you taught my father 30 years ago. Prof, you taught my mother 34 years ago, 35 years ago. That for me is my achievement, because they say teaching a person to produce and giving the person food, the person who teaches the person to produce is a better person. So for me, being a teacher is my strength, and using my legal knowledge to serve a lot of poor people as the grandchildren and the buyers and the different people that I've served. I don't even know. People tell me today, somebody came to my office with a bill of gold. You're not here to enjoy me eat it, Dennis, from Addington with 2 bags of coal. And you say, you helped me some time ago. I don't remember the man. So I came to bring you the big bill of gold from Addington. I will support you. I want you to come to Addington. I don't remember people that I do things for, but I enjoy doing things. I enjoy even giving more than receiving. That's my life. So I give my service to the Liberian people, and I enjoy doing that. Many people are campaigning. I'm not going to campaign in this country because campaign is not done on campaign day. I'm just going to expose myself to Liberians because my name is a household name. I've already campaigned my whole life for Liberia, giving up my life for Liberia. I could have died many times. And the things that I've done is what's going to work for me. That's why I can leave from here and go to America without paying any money. And I can sleep in so many hotels in 12 states without paying money. And I can go with 1 suitcase and bring 7 suitcases full of new clothes, all Liberians paying back. If I just measure the goodwill of the Liberians in America as a sign of winning, I can say I won the election. And they are calling the people back. So, people know us. And they say, when you say you can plant a new mat, show the old mat. My whole life has been different from many people who want to seek power in this country. So that is where we are.
Councillor, did you watch the confirmation hearing of the new LAA director, Mr. Darlington Collins? Is that Collins? No. The airport. Darlington. Did you watch that confirmation?
Listen, a big brother of mine, Yasu Dole, told me one time that certain conversations, certain events can uneducate you. I don't want to be uneducated. So I'm not going to watch that because it's not worth my time from what all I've heard, everything I've heard.
Thank you.
I use my time wisely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. And as we conclude, anything you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
I just want to tell the last time I appeared on your show, a young lady asked me about a mental health policy and all of that. I met her subsequently at the city or at the flag raising event on July 26th. I'm the one that gave you a hard time about public health, mental health policy. I say, come on board. I want you to help me develop a strong mental health policy for Liberia. Yes, but some young people are here. There's one, Mr. Lasana and his wife, who are here, and they are working. I've asked them to work on mental health policy. Young people, young professionals in America, and they have told me, look, there are people holding guns in your country, even the security forces, who do not have the mental capacity to hold based on our assessment of them as mental health experts. So, you know, they told me about mental health, and I said, wow, we think about mental health issue as in seeing people walking in the street, but the experts tell us the degree of mental health in Liberia is so high, you know, and it reflects in the way people get so easily angry in this country and engage in violence and all that. I said, these are all manifestations, these are all symptoms of mental health problem. So, you know, I appreciate that she got me to think a little bit about mental health, because we who are not experts think about the crazy people in the street as the only sign of mental health. But it is a big problem in this country because people are not de-traumatized, no rehabilitation after the war, nothing. So we have serious issue.
Yeah,
I think it's something that every candidate should focus on, because it's not only the drug-affected youth in the street that we call Zugos, but there are mental health affected people working in government offices, working in banks, working in the business sector, all over the place. But there has been no assessment of the level of mental health problem in this country. I think any serious government should embark on that. And from the young lady who appear on your platform, I really focus on that. I put a team together that is working on mental health program, policy and program,
Thank you, Councillor. Right on top of the hour at 7 o'clock, we're going to have Tough Talking Thursday. Corruption, the root causes, the impact on the society, and how to curb or minimize corruption will be highlighted on the agenda. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. on the Hour of Politics, the ULA president, Mr. Shehu Kamara, will sit with Mr. Ansoni Sia to talk about ULA's decision on the 100,000, the 300,000 the government of Liberia promised, their position statement on the sanctions, their statement on the Face the Country protest, and ULA recent trip to Liberia. Also, on Saturday, I'm going to be hosting the Liberia National Academic Excellence Award 2022. Mr. Ase Mwapo and his crew will be here to talk about the award this year. You don't want to miss it. Councillor, again, thank you for coming. Your closing comments.
I will watch this program, but I want to thank ULA for the strong statement they issued. And before they issued that statement, everybody thought that ULA was in a corner of the government and a loyal institution of the government, but they really proved themselves to be independent by that statement, standing up for Liberia. I want to applaud them for that. And I want to thank President Shehu Kamara for that strong statement. We need to do that for our country. Nobody needs to back anything that is wrong that makes our country look bad and disgraced.
Councillor, the people don't want you to go. They say you should talk about your impression of the Chief Justice destiny.
Oh, I don't want to talk about that. All I can say, she's a good lawyer. She was practicing law. She's qualified by law. She has, you know, once you go on a bench, becoming Chief Justice is an administrative position because it doesn't change your action on the bench when it comes to cases. You got one vote as Chief Justice. The only thing you can do is you can persuade the other justices for you to have unanimous opinion, but the difference between being a justice and a Chief Justice is the assignment of judges and signing payroll, employing people, and all of that. And I believe that for the substantive work, she's qualified. The law requires that you be a citizen of Liberia and be a counselor at law for 5 years before going on the bench. And she's already served on the bench for a longer time. She's one of the older trained lawyers in the country. I mean, she came from law school, I think 1982 or so. And when I was just a university graduate. So I don't have doubt about her qualification as a well-trained and experienced lawyer. That's what we need.
Thank you, Councillor. We will be glad to have you back. We appreciate your time very much.
Thank you. When I come from my trip out of Monrovia to Bond County, I probably will talk to you. I will ask to talk to you to tell you what happened in Interior.
Yeah. On that note, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Whether you support Councillor Gongloe, you support Honorable Bwakai, you support We Are, whoever you support, we are all Liberians, and it is incumbent upon
And
all of us.
you should say, Cllr, Kukatono. We are all one.
We are one, definitely. So that's the song we close with.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.